Morning, folks, and welcome to another performance by the International Bigshot. This is sort of a transitional week here in northeastern Pennsylvania. I'm afraid my cycling days for the summertime may be over, and the rides, or the hill climbing rides that I had planned to make in October might happen, but lately the weather has been too cold in the morning for me to go out on the bike. And like I keep saying, I don't have the proper clothing to make a bike ride, I should say, comfortable in this weather. So I just don't do it. I'd rather go out walking for fitness rather than cycling. But if the weather does warm up, then yes, I'll be back on the bike at least till the end of the month, and hopefully get some of those climbs that I plan to do in, like the Salem Loop, which I mentioned I think a video or two ago, and maybe the Dundaff Owego climb, or the Owego Dundaff climb, I guess I should call it. I've done the Dundaff climb already, and the Owego Turnpike climb that may be coming up. That's much steeper than the Dundaff, but it is shorter. So hopefully I'll be able to complete those before the end of the month. But it's all weather dependent. We'll see what happens. Right now it's 8 degrees. That's why I've got my jacket on. I almost need my hat, but that's not going to happen for another week or so. We'll see how this goes, and hopefully the weather will warm up. I was kind of disappointed that it got this cool this early in the year. I can't remember it happening like this last year. But I'm ready for it. I've been watching a lot of videos lately about people talking about their fitness routines. As I said in an earlier video, I think it was last summer, that if you're going to set a fitness schedule, it has to happen at the same time every day. If it doesn't, then you're not going to stick to it. Very few people can have a fitness routine that occurs at different times every day, or at, I should say, convenient times, depending on what else is going on during the day. So if you're going to set a fitness program, the number one thing that I think is important is that it has to occur at the same time every day. Also, this week I've been looking at a lot of videos where people talk about planning and how they use digital applications to help them get work done and things like that. And the reason I've been watching those is because I'm looking for I guess I should say, an online or a cloud version of storing photos. So I'm looking for the best, cheapest online photo storage system that I can find. And the reason for that is right now I'm keeping all the photographs that I've got on a hard drive. And anybody that does things like that knows that those hard drives, these are physical spinning hard drives, so they're not really, I wouldn't say they're 100% reliable. Yeah, they last a long time, but if you have all your photos on one of them and it doesn't work, then you lose all those photos. And a few years ago, I had all the old family slides scanned and put into JPEGs. And also, I used to take a lot of still photographs whenever I traveled. I have a lot of those. I don't want to lose them. And I don't really take that many photos anymore. But when I do, I want to make sure that I'm able to keep them safe. So I've been looking at online storage systems. I looked at Google Photos, Apple iCloud. I think Apple calls it Apple Photos or something. Adobe Lightroom. I use Adobe Lightroom 5, which is your photos are physically stored on the hard drive, but they're not in the cloud. So to move those to the cloud, you need something called Adobe Lightroom CC. By the way, if anybody from Adobe is watching this video, Your naming conventions for the Lightroom application are ridiculous. There are versions of Adobe Lightroom that exist on your computer, exist in the cloud. Some of them have Photoshop attached to the name. It's just dumb. If you're trying to sell something, you should at least make the names distinguishable from one another so people know what they're buying. But having said that, I'm probably going to go with Adobe Lightroom because I've already used it. A lot of my photos have different keywords and tags on them, and I don't want to lose those. And if you're familiar with the Lightroom database, you know that it's proprietary, first of all. So if you add identifying keywords to a photo, they will work in Lightroom. But if you change or switch those photos over to Google Photos or Apple Photo, then all those keywords are lost. That's one of the things I want to make sure doesn't happen. So in the next couple of weeks, I've got almost 20,000 digital photographs, and I want to transfer those over. It's going to take a while, I think. So I'm trying to find a day, because I think it'll take at least that long to transfer all those files from the hard drive that they're on now to the Adobe Cloud. But I'm still investigating it. If anybody has any ideas on how you can do this cheaper, they charge like $10 a month to keep these photos online, and you have access to the Lightroom online application for $10 a month. So if you have a better way to do it, please let me know in the comments below, because I'd really like to get this taken care of. So when I travel, I don't have to worry about my hard drives, hauling those hard drives around. They're useful, but I don't want to really store anything valuable on them. And yes, I know putting them in the cloud is not a guarantee that they're going to survive some calamity that might strike Adobe, but doing this is like insurance. Because let's face it, when you buy insurance, you think everything's okay until something actually happens, and then you find out maybe it's not. But this is the same kind of mindset, I think. Once I get these photos into the cloud, I'll feel a lot safer that they're not going to disappear someday when the hard drive simply doesn't work. Something else I've been working on is finding a really good note-taking app. I had another video where I talked about this, and I think I left the app I'm using now off my list, and that is Google Keep. I was tipped off on this app, or about this app, by one of my cousins a couple of months ago, and I've been using it. I started using it, and it's become my go-to app for taking notes. It's a no-brainer. As soon as I think of something to write down, I immediately open Google Keep and just start typing. It's brilliant the way it works. It's not fancy. It's not one of those things where you're going to load it on your computer and then sit around putting things in just so you can check them off, which was my problem with some of the other apps I used. With Google Keep, that's never going to happen. It's not one of those pretty apps. It's a note-taking app. Either it helps you get things done, remember things, or it's just a time drain. So I'm recommending Google Keep. If you're looking for a note-taking app and you're not satisfied with the ones you've got, or if the ones you have are causing you to do more work, then give Google Keep a try. It's free. It's very lightweight. It doesn't take up a lot of space on your computer. Everything is stored in the cloud, and it loads almost instantly. And it integrates with the Google Calendar, which is another plus. But I still like watching videos of people that are using things like Notion, Things, Omni Plus, or whatever that thing is called now. Those apps are just way too much work. Plus, you have to pay for them. And anytime you have to pay for something, Usually they try to add features and things that you really don't need. Sort of like Microsoft Word. I mean, think about all the things that Word does. Most people don't even know all the things Word does. You don't really need Word. It's bloated. It's overpriced. And when things go wrong, you practically need to hire an expert to figure out how to fix things. So that's the same concept I'm using when I'm talking about note-taking apps. The more things I do, the more complicated they are, the less useful they are. We are coming up to my favorite part of the Lackawanna Heritage Trail here in Carbondale. And it's just this little tunnel-like section. I'm not really sure why it's even here, unless they specifically built it to actually make it look like this. But it's the same trail, same path surface. It just goes through a bunch of trees on both sides. And it's like being in a little tree-lined tunnel. In a few weeks, this will be ablaze with color, I hope. But this is my favorite section. It's quiet. It's less than 100 meters long, so it's not like anything that you come out and seek out, but when you get to it, it's really a nice part of the trail. Well, those are some of the things that have been on my mind this week. If you watched my last video, I said that I would be talking about the Malaysian M2H visa situation this week, but I'm still working on that video. It's turning out to be pretty good. It's just that I want it to be definitive, at least up to the time it's published. So it's taking much more research than I normally put into a video. We're in October right now, which means that on TV we're getting a lot of so-called horror movies. And you can watch my take on horror movies by clicking the video up there, because they're not horror movies at all. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the button. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.